The stars around Earth burned with the fires of a dying civilization. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers across the darkness of space, each one marking the death of a human ship or station. Admiral James Chen stood on the bridge of the carrier Indomitable, watching his fleet die piece by piece on the tactical display before him. "Sir, the Beijing is gone. The Moscow reports critical damage to its main engines." Lieutenant Parker's voice was steady, but Chen could hear the exhaustion beneath it. They had been fighting for 3 days straight. 3 days of hell. The Crithian Dominion had come to Earth with overwhelming force. Their ships were massive things covered in dark armor that seemed to swallow light itself. They had swept through humanity's outer colonies like a storm, destroying everything in their path. Now they were here, at humanity's birthplace, and they would not stop until Earth was theirs. Chen watched another icon blink red and disappear from his screen. The destroyer Valiant gone with all hands. 500 souls just like that. He clenched his fist so hard his nails bit into his palm. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 17 capital ships still combat capable, sir. Maybe 40 smaller vessels." Parker paused. The Crithians still have over 200. The numbers were impossible. Chen had known they were losing from the start, but he had hoped, prayed even, that somehow they could hold on long enough for a miracle. But miracles did not exist in the cold math of warfare. The Crithians had more ships, better weapons, and stronger shields. Humanity had courage and desperation, and those were not enough. On the view screen, Chen could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. Fires dotted its surface where Crithian bombardment had struck population centers. New York was burning. Tokyo had gone dark hours ago. How many millions had already died? How many more would join them before this was over? "Admiral, the Crithian flagship is charging weapons again. They're targeting our position." The tactical officer's hands moved across his console, bringing up defensive systems that Chen knew would not be enough. "All ships, evasive pattern Delta. Get us out of their main firing arc." Chen's orders were calm, practiced. He had been a military man for 30 years. He knew how to face death without flinching. The Indomitable shuddered as its engines pushed it into a sharp turn. Around it, the remnants of Earth's defense fleet scattered like frightened birds. But they were not birds. They were warriors, and even in defeat, they would make the Crithians pay for every inch of space. A beam of purple energy lanced out from the Crithian flagship, missing the Indomitable by less than a kilometer. The beam struck the frigate Adelaide instead, cutting through its hull like a hot knife through butter. The ship broke apart in silence, spilling atmosphere and bodies into the void. Chen closed his eyes for just a moment. When he opened them again, his face was set like stone. Return fire, all batteries. The Indomitable's railgun spoke with thunder, sending solid slugs of metal screaming toward the enemy at a fraction of light speed. They struck the Crithian flagship's shields and exploded into clouds of plasma. The shields held. They always held. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from the lunar stations. The Crithians have landing craft heading for the surface. They're going to invade the moon." Parker looked up from his console, his young face pale with fear. Chen wanted to help them. He wanted to save everyone. But he could not. He had to choose, and the choice was clear even if it broke his heart. "We cannot spare any ships. Tell the lunar garrison they are on their own. May God have mercy on them." The words tasted like ash in his mouth. He was abandoning thousands of people to save millions. It was the right choice, the only choice, but that did not make it easier. "Admiral." The sensor officer suddenly stood up, his eyes wide. "Sir, I'm detecting something." A massive gravimetric anomaly bearing 270, distance 300,000 kilometers. Chen frowned. "What kind of anomaly? Is it another Crithian fleet?" "I don't know, sir. It's huge, whatever it is. The readings are like nothing I've ever seen. It's like there's something there, something big, but our sensors can't get a lock on it. It's like it's hiding." A chill ran down Chen's spine. Something was out there watching them. Something that had been hiding while Earth burned. Friend or foe? He had no way to know. Keep monitoring it. If it moves toward us, I want to know immediately. Chen turned back to the tactical display, but his mind was racing. What could be out there? What would hide during a battle like this? The Crithians pressed their attack. More human ships died. Their names and crews added to the long list of the fallen. The defense fleet was being pushed back, forced away from Earth and toward the moon. Soon they would have nowhere left to run. Chen looked at the countdown timer on his display. At the current rate of losses, his fleet would be combat ineffective in less than 2 hours. After that, Earth would be defenseless. The Crithians would land their armies and humanity would become slaves or corpses, perhaps both. Sir, the anomaly is still there. It hasn't moved. Whatever it is, it's just watching. The sensor officer sounded frightened now. Watching. The word echoed in Chen's mind. Something was watching Earth die and doing nothing to help. Anger flared in his chest, hot and fierce. If there was someone out there who could help but chose not to, then they were as guilty as the Crithians themselves. Broadcast on all frequencies. Tell whoever or whatever is out there that if they have any humanity in them, any decency at all, now is the time to show it. Earth is dying. If they can help and choose not to, then they are cowards and we curse their names with our last breath. Parker looked shocked. Sir, is that wise? We don't know what's out there. I don't care. If they're here to kill us, they can get in line behind the Crithians. If they're here to help, then damn them for waiting this long. The message went out across every radio frequency, every laser communication channel, a desperate plea from a dying world to an unknown observer. For a long moment, nothing happened. The battle raged on. More ships died. The Crithian fleet advanced, unstoppable and merciless. Then the sensor officer gasped. Admiral, the anomaly, it's changing. The gravimetric readings are spiking. Something's happening. Chen spun toward the view screen. In the darkness of space between Earth and the advancing Crithian fleet, the stars began to shimmer and twist. Reality itself seemed to bend, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. And then, like a curtain being pulled back, something appeared. It was a ship. A human ship, Chen realized with shock. But it was like no human ship he had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the Indomitable, and its hull was sleek and perfect, covered in armor that seemed to drink in the starlight. Symbols marked its side, symbols Chen recognized. The flag of the United Earth Defense Force, his flag, but that was impossible. The ship hung in space like a sword drawn from its sheath, ready for battle. Every weapon on the Crithian fleet swung to face this new threat. Chen's fleet held its fire, confused and amazed in equal measure. Then a transmission came through, crackling with static but clear enough to understand. A woman's voice, strong and confident. This is the UEDS Prometheus responding to Terra's distress call. We've been waiting for the right moment. We're coming home, and we're ready to fight. Chen stared at the massive ship on his view screen, hope blooming in his chest for the first time in days. The name rang in his mind like a bell. Prometheus, the titan who brought fire to humanity. Perhaps, just perhaps, they had brought fire to Earth one more time. Admiral Chen stared at the massive ship that had appeared from nowhere. The Prometheus hung in space like a promise, like a dream made solid. Around him, the bridge crew of the Indomitable stood frozen, unable to process what they were seeing. Get me a line to that ship, now. Chen's voice snapped his crew out of their shock. Lieutenant Parker's hands flew across his console, opening communication channels. The woman's voice came through again, clearer this time. Admiral Chen, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Prometheus. I know you have questions. I know this seems impossible, but right now the Crithians are regrouping for another attack. We need to work together if we're going to save Earth. Chen's mind raced. How did this woman know his name? Where had this ship come from? The design was clearly human, but the technology on display was far beyond anything Earth's engineers had created. The ship's hull alone looked like it was made from materials that should not exist. Captain Vasquez, identify yourself. What fleet are you with? Where did you come from? Chen needed answers, but even as he asked the questions, he knew they could wait. The Crithians would not give them time for a long conversation. There was a pause on the other end. Then Vasquez spoke again, her voice careful. Admiral, the truth is going to sound crazy. The Prometheus is from Earth, but not the Earth you know. We're from 200 years in your future. We came back to this moment because in our timeline, Earth fell today. Everyone died. We're here to change that. The bridge went silent. Time travel. The woman was claiming they had traveled through time. It was impossible. It violated every law of physics Chen knew. And yet the ship existed. It was real. He could see it with his own eyes. Prove it, Chen said flatly. Your wife's name is Sarah. You have 2 daughters, Emma and Lisa. Emma is studying medicine at Oxford. Lisa wants to be a pilot like her father, but you're afraid to let her join the military. You keep a photo of them in your left breast pocket over your heart. Vasquez's voice was gentle. In my timeline, you died in the next hour. Your last words were, "Tell them I love them." Chen's hand moved unconsciously to his pocket, feeling the outline of the photograph he kept there. His throat tightened. No one on the bridge knew those details except him. Even Parker, who had served with him for years, did not know about Lisa's dreams of becoming a pilot. "How do you know this?" Chen whispered. "Because in my timeline I read your biography. You became a hero, Admiral. The man who held the line even when all hope was gone. But heroes don't change the fact that Earth burned and billions died." Vasquez paused. "We came back to make sure that doesn't happen. We came back to save everyone." Chen looked at the tactical display. The Krithian fleet was indeed regrouping, forming up for what would likely be their final assault. His 17 ships could not stop them. But maybe, just maybe, with this mysterious ship from the future, they had a chance. "What do you need from us, Captain?" Chen asked. "Trust, Admiral. And coordination. The Prometheus has weapons and technology that can hurt the Krithians, but we're still just one ship. We need your fleet to work with us. I'm sending over tactical data, now study it. You'll see patterns in the Krithian formations, weak points in their shields. We've been watching this battle, learning everything we can." Data began flooding into the Indomitable's computers. Parker pulled it up on the main screen, and Chen saw immediately what Vasquez meant. The tactical analysis was incredibly detailed, showing vulnerabilities in the Krithian ships that Chen's own sensors had missed. Shield harmonics, power distribution patterns, even the response times of their weapon systems. It was intelligence that should have taken months to gather, but it was all there, perfect and precise. "This is incredible," Parker breathed. "If this data is accurate, we can actually hurt them." "It's accurate, Lieutenant," Vasquez said. "We fought the Krithians before. In our timeline, Earth's fleet bought us time to study them. You bought us that time, Admiral, with your lives. Now we're using what we learned to finish what you started." Chen made his decision. It did not matter if he fully understood what was happening. What mattered was saving Earth. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We have a new ally. The Prometheus will coordinate our attack. Follow their lead and trust the tactical data they're providing. This is our chance to push the Krithians back. Don't waste it." Acknowledgements came back from the surviving ships of the fleet. Chen could hear the hope in their voices, the desperate need to believe that they could win. "Prometheus, what's your battle plan?" Chen asked. "We're going to hit them hard and fast. My ship has weapons they've never seen before. While they're focused on us, your fleet will exploit the vulnerabilities in their formations. We'll cut through their vanguard, then wheel around for a second pass. By then they'll be in disarray. That's when we push them back toward the outer system." It was aggressive, maybe too aggressive, but Chen had learned long ago that desperate times called for bold action. "Understood. My fleet is ready." "On your signal, Captain. Signal in 30 seconds. Prometheus out." Chen watched the mysterious ship on his view screen. He could see it more clearly now. Its hull was covered in strange markings, wear patterns that spoke of battles fought and survived. This was not a fresh ship from a shipyard. This was a veteran, a warrior that had seen war and come through it scarred but unbroken. "All ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage." Chen's orders were crisp. Around him, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had done this dance before many times, but this time felt different. This time they had hope. The Prometheus began to move. It accelerated smoothly, faster than any ship Chen had ever seen. Its engines left trails of blue-white light that looked almost like wings. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Prometheus is engaging," Parker shouted. The future ship dove into the Krithian formation like a hawk among pigeons. Its weapons fired, and Chen gasped at what he saw. Beams of golden light lanced out, striking Krithian shields and burning through them like they were paper. A Krithian cruiser exploded, torn apart by weapons it had no defense against. Another tried to turn away, but the Prometheus was too fast. It rolled, firing from multiple angles, and the Krithian ship died in a ball of purple flame. "All ships, advance. Follow the Prometheus," Chen ordered. His fleet surged forward, their own weapons targeting the weak points that Vasquez had identified. Railgun rounds punched through damaged shields. Missiles found exposed hull sections. For the first time in 3 days, Krithian ships were dying faster than human ones. The battle became a storm of light and fury. The Prometheus moved through the enemy formation like a dancer, graceful and deadly. Chen watched in awe as it demonstrated technology that seemed like magic. Shields that shimmered with rainbow colors and bent incoming fire away. Weapons that appeared and disappeared, folding out of the hull when needed and vanishing when not. Even its movements defied what Chen knew about ship design. It turned too quickly, accelerated too fast. It was as if the ship ignored the normal rules of physics. "Admiral, the Crithian flagship is pulling back." Parker's voice was excited. "They're retreating." Chen could hardly believe it. The massive Crithian command ship, the vessel that had led the assault on Earth, was turning away from the battle. Around it, the rest of the Crithian fleet began to disengage, their formations breaking apart as they sought to escape the fury of the Prometheus. "Don't let them regroup. Keep the pressure on," Chen ordered. But even as he spoke, he knew his fleet was exhausted. His ships had been fighting for days. They were low on ammunition, their crews running on stimulants and desperation. The Prometheus, however, showed no signs of slowing down. It pursued the retreating Crithians, its weapons cutting down stragglers with methodical precision. The message was clear. Earth was no longer defenseless. Earth had teeth now. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the Crithian fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, vanishing from Earth's space. They were gone. The battle was over. For a moment, silence filled the bridge of the Indomitable. Then someone started cheering. The sound spread, growing louder as the reality sank in. They had won. Against all odds, against impossible numbers, they had driven the Crithians away from Earth. Chen allowed himself a small smile. Then he opened a channel to the Prometheus. "Captain Vasquez, on behalf of Earth and her people, thank you. You saved us." Vasquez's voice came back, but now Chen could hear the weariness in it. "Don't thank me yet, Admiral. We won the battle, but the war is far from over. The Crithians will be back and they'll bring more ships. We need to talk, you and I. There are things you need to know. Things about why the Crithians came here in the first place." The joy on the bridge faded a little. Chen felt a chill run through him. "What do you mean? Can you come aboard the Prometheus? Bring your senior staff. What I have to tell you, I'd rather do it face to face." Vasquez sounded grim. "You won the battle today, Admiral. But I'm about to tell you about a war that makes the Crithian invasion look like a small problem, and we have very little time to prepare." The shuttle from the Indomitable docked with the Prometheus, and Admiral Chen felt his breath catch as he stepped into the future ship. Everything was different. The walls seemed to glow with a soft light that came from nowhere and everywhere. The corridors were wider, smoother, and the air tasted cleaner than any ship air he had ever breathed. It was like stepping into a dream. "Admiral Chen, welcome aboard." Captain Elena Vasquez stood waiting for him. She was younger than Chen had expected, maybe in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her uniform was similar to current UEDF design, but refined, more elegant. Her eyes held the look of someone who had seen too much war. Behind Chen, Lieutenant Parker and Commander Harris, his tactical officer, looked around with open amazement. Chen understood their feeling. The ship represented everything humanity might become, given time and peace. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. "Captain Vasquez, your ship is remarkable," Chen said, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Please, call me Elena. And thank you, but the Prometheus isn't really mine. It belongs to all of us, to humanity's future." She gestured down the corridor. "Come. We have much to discuss, and I'm afraid some of it will be hard to hear." They walked through the ship, passing crew members who nodded respectfully. Chen noticed their faces, the way they looked at him and his officers. There was something in their expressions, a kind of sadness mixed with determination. These people knew something terrible, and they carried that knowledge like a weight. Elena led them to a conference room that overlooked the ship's main hangar. Through the windows, Chen could see fighters and small craft that looked impossibly sleek and deadly. Everything here spoke of a civilization that had been fighting for survival and had learned to do it very, very well. "Please sit." Elena took a seat at the head of the table and pulled up a holographic display. Chen was used to holographic technology, but this was different. The image was perfectly solid-looking, with colors that seemed more real than reality. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but you've already accepted that we came from the future, so maybe you'll be ready for the rest." She tapped a control, and the display showed Earth, beautiful and blue. Then the image changed, showing the planet covered in black geometric structures that looked like tumors growing on the surface. "In my timeline, this happened 50 years from now, but somehow the timeline has changed. I believe our presence here, our interference, has accelerated events. They're coming much sooner than they did before. Who's coming? Commander Harris asked, leaning forward. We call them the Voidborn. Elena's voice was heavy. They're not from our galaxy. They came from the space between galaxies, from the void itself. They're machines. Or maybe they're something that transcended biology so long ago that they forgot they were ever alive. They consume everything. Every world they find, every species, every trace of life. They take it all and turn it into more of themselves. The hologram showed ships, if they could be called that. Geometric nightmares of black crystal and impossible angles. They moved through space like sharks through water, graceful and utterly without mercy. They destroyed Earth? Chen asked quietly. They destroyed everything. Earth, Mars, all of humanity's colonies. Then they moved on to our neighbors, to the other species in our part of the galaxy. In my time, we estimate they consumed 50 billion souls before we even understood what they were. Elena's hands clenched on the table. The Crethians know about them. That's why they came to Earth. Parker spoke up, confused. Wait, I don't understand. The Crethians invaded us. They were trying to conquer Earth. No. Elena shook her head. They were trying to take Earth's resources and population before the Voidborn arrived. The Crethian dominion has been running from the Voidborn for years. They've lost half their empire. They came to Earth because we're rich in resources and we have billions of people who could be soldiers, workers, engineers. In their own way, they were trying to save us by enslaving us. The room fell silent. Chen tried to process what he was hearing. The Crethians, humanity's terrible enemy, were themselves running from something worse. It was almost too much to believe. How long do we have? Chen asked. Days, maybe a week. The Voidborn's arrival has been accelerated by our presence here. They're drawn to temporal anomalies, to disruptions in space-time. The Prometheus created a massive disruption when we traveled back. We rang a dinner bell, Admiral, and something heard it. Elena looked at each of them in turn. I'm sorry. We came here to save Earth, but we may have just moved up the date of its destruction. Commander Harris stood up, anger on his face. Then why did you come? If you knew this would happen, why risk it? Because in my timeline, Earth fell to the Crethians today, and then the Voidborn came 50 years later when humanity was scattered and weak. We had no chance. At least this way, Earth is still here. Humanity is united, and we have technology and knowledge that can help. Elena stood as well, meeting Harris's anger with calm resolve. We didn't come back to doom Earth, we came back to give it a fighting chance. Chen raised a hand, quieting his officer. What's your plan, Captain? Elena smiled grimly. We need to do something that would have been unthinkable yesterday. We need to ally with the Crethians. Absolutely not, Harris shouted. They killed millions of our people. They destroyed our cities. And the Voidborn will kill billions if we don't stop them, Elena shot back. I understand your anger, Commander. I really do. But the Crethians are not our enemy. They're refugees running from annihilation. They made terrible choices, but they did it out of desperation. Now we're all desperate together. Chen thought about it. Every instinct in his body screamed against working with the Crethians. But he had not survived 30 years in the military by ignoring hard truths. If what Elena said was true, then humanity needed every ally it could get. How do we convince them? Chen asked. The Crethians just lost a major battle. They're not going to trust us. We offer them what they came here for in the first place. Not slavery, but partnership. We share Earth's resources. We work together to build defenses. We combine our technology and our forces. Elena brought up a new hologram, showing ship designs that blended human and Crethian elements. In my timeline, we only learned to work together after both our species were nearly extinct. This time we do it before it's too late. And if they refuse? Parker asked. Then we fight the Voidborn alone and probably die. Elena's voice was flat. I won't lie to you. Our chances are not good either way. But together we have a chance. Apart, we have none. Chen made his decision. Set up a meeting. I'll talk to the Crethian Dominus. If we can convince them that we're not trying to trick them, maybe we can make this work. Over the next hours, communications went back and forth between Earth's fleet and the retreating Crethians. It was delicate work. Both sides had just been trying to kill each other. Trust was in short supply, but slowly, carefully, Elena and Chen built a case. They shared information about the Voidborn. They showed the Crethians data from the future, evidence that could not be faked. And finally, they made their offer. The Crethian Dominus, leader of their empire, agreed to meet. The meeting would take place on neutral ground. aboard a station that orbited between Earth and the Moon. Both sides would bring limited forces. Both sides would have the chance to speak and be heard. The day of the meeting, Chen found himself in the same room as the being who had ordered the destruction of human cities. The Dominus was tall, nearly 3 meters, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed with a faint purple light. Its voice when it spoke was like rocks grinding together. You say you come from the future. You say the Voidborn are coming. Why should we believe you? The Dominus's translator rendered its words in flat, emotionless English. Elena stepped forward. She held up a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared showing a Crythian world. Beautiful cities of crystal and metal. Then the image shifted, showing the same world covered in Voidborn structures. The cities gone, the land dead. This is Crythia Prime, your homeworld. This is what the Voidborn did to it in my timeline. The Dominus went very still. Around the room, its guards shifted, their weapons clicking nervously. Crythia Prime is lost to us. The Voidborn took it 2 years ago. How do you know what it looked like before? Because in my timeline, some of your people survived and allied with humanity. They showed us the records, the histories. We mourned together for what was lost. Elena's voice was gentle now. Dominus, I know you see us as primitives, as obstacles. But we're not. We're potential allies, potential friends. And right now, friendship is the only thing that's going to save either of our species. The Dominus looked at Chen. And you agree with this, Admiral? You would ally with those who killed your people? Chen met the alien's glowing eyes. I would do anything to save Earth, including working with you. The question is, will you do the same to save your people? For a long moment, the Dominus was silent. Then it spoke, its voice carrying a weight that filled the room. In my culture, we have a saying. The enemy of my enemy is the beginning of wisdom. Very well. We will stand with you against the Voidborn. We will share our strength with yours, and perhaps if we survive, we will learn to see each other differently. Elena nodded. Then we have where Earth's orbit had become a construction yard unlike anything in history. Human and Crythian ships worked side by side, sharing technology and building defenses. Massive weapons platforms grew in space like steel flowers, bristling with guns from both species. Energy shield generators the size of skyscrapers floated into position, ready to protect the planet below. Admiral Chen stood aboard the Prometheus, watching the work through the observation deck. 5 days had passed since the alliance was formed, 5 days of frantic preparation for an enemy that could arrive at any moment. He had barely slept, running on coffee and determination. It's amazing how fast people can work when they know they're going to die otherwise, Elena said, joining him at the window. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. But there was also pride in her expression. We've upgraded 30% of your fleet with Prometheus technology. The Crythians have shared their shield designs. It's more progress than I dared hope for. Chen nodded. Your engineers are incredible. They've been teaching our people things that should take years to learn. And the Crythians, I have to admit, their technology is impressive. Their power generation systems are far beyond ours. Different species, different strengths. That's why working together makes us stronger. Elena pulled up a holographic display showing the defensive network. The orbital platforms are almost complete. We've got 3 layers of shields that can cover the entire planet, and the combined fleet is positioned to intercept any attack before it reaches Earth. Will it be enough? Chen asked the question that haunted him every waking moment. Honestly, I don't know. In my timeline, we had 50 years to prepare and we still barely survived. Now we have 5 days, Elena sighed. But we have advantages too. The Prometheus and its technology. The combined strength of 3 species working together. And we know the Voidborn's tactics. We've studied them, fought them, learned their patterns. A young officer approached one of Elena's crew. Captain, we're receiving a request from Lieutenant Vasquez. She wants permission to visit the Prometheus. Elena's face went still for a moment. Maria, she's here? Yes, ma'am. Her fighter squadron was assigned to defend the station. She says she heard about the Prometheus and wanted to see it. The officer looked curious. Do you know her, Captain? Chen watched Elena carefully. He had learned to read her expressions over the past few days. Right now, she looked like someone facing a ghost. Send her up, Elena said quietly. I'll meet her in observation deck 3. The officer left and Chen raised an eyebrow. Want to tell me what that was about? Elena smiled sadly. Maria Vasquez is my grandmother. Or she will be in about 50 years. In my timeline, she died in the defense of Mars. I've seen pictures of her, read her service record. But I've never met her. She died before I was born. and now you have a chance to talk to her. Chen understood. Do you want privacy? No, please stay. I think I need a friend right now. Elena walked to the observation deck she had specified, a smaller, quieter room with a view of Earth. 10 minutes later, the door opened, and a young woman in a pilot's flight suit walked in. She was in her early 20s with the same dark hair as Elena, and a confident way of moving that reminded Chen of the captain. She saluted crisply. Lieutenant Maria Vasquez reporting, ma'am. I wanted to thank the crew of the Prometheus personally for saving Earth. Elena returned the salute, then smiled warmly. At ease, Lieutenant. I'm Captain Elena Vasquez. I've heard good things about your squadron. You fought well in the battle. Maria's eyes widened. Vasquez, are we related? That would be something, wouldn't it? Yes, it would be something. Elena's voice was thick with emotion. Tell me, Lieutenant, what made you want to be a pilot? They talked for an hour. Chen watched as Elena asked careful questions, learning about Maria's life, her dreams, her fears. Maria wanted to explore the stars, to see new worlds. She talked about maybe settling down someday, having a family, but that was far in the future. Right now, she just wanted to fly and protect Earth. You're going to do great things, Elena said softly. I know it. You're going to have a full life, Maria. You're going to see things that make you laugh and cry. You're going to love and be loved. And someday you're going to have a daughter and you'll name her Elena. Maria laughed. That's a pretty specific prediction, Captain. Do you have psychic powers or something? Something like that. Elena reached out and squeezed Maria's hand. Promise me something, Lieutenant. When this battle is over, when the Voidborn are defeated, live your life fully. Don't let fear stop you from doing what makes you happy. Can you promise me that? I promise, Captain. Maria looked confused but sincere. Are you okay? You look like you're about to cry. I'm fine. Just tired. Elena released her hand. You should get back to your squadron. They'll need you ready when the Voidborn arrive. After Maria left, Elena stood at the window, tears running down her face. Chen put a hand on her shoulder. That was hard for you. You have no idea. Seeing her alive, young, full of hope. In my timeline, she died fighting the Voidborn at Mars. She bought time for evacuation ships to escape. She was a hero, but she never got to have the life she dreamed of. Elena wiped her eyes. If we win this battle, she'll have that chance. That's why we came back. Not just to save billions, but to save people like her. People who deserve to live. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. The lights shifted to red alert status. A voice came over the intercom. All hands to battle stations. Long-range sensors have detected the Voidborn fleet. They're entering the system. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 6 hours. Chen and Elena exchanged a look. 6 hours. That was all the time they had left to prepare. They rushed to the bridge. The main view screen showed the sensor data, and Chen felt his blood run cold. The Voidborn fleet was huge. Hundreds of ships, each one a geometric nightmare of black crystal. They moved in perfect formation, like a swarm of predators following a scent. Get me Admiral Chen on the Indomitable and Dominus Creth on the Crithian flagship, Elena ordered. Within moments, both appeared on split screens. They're here, Chen said unnecessarily. Everyone could see the data. Dominus Creth's voice rumbled through the speakers. The Voidborn. I had hoped never to see them again. My people have run from them for so long. Today we run no more. Today we stand together, Elena agreed. All ships execute Defense Plan Alpha. Human and Crithian fleets will form a layered defense between the Voidborn and Earth. The Prometheus will anchor the center line. When they get close enough, we hit them with everything we have. The next hours were a blur of preparation. Ships moved into position. Weapons were charged and ready. Shield generators hummed to life, creating overlapping fields of protection. On Earth below, billions of people watched the sky, praying to whatever gods they believed in. Chen found himself back aboard the Indomitable, in his proper place at the head of Earth's fleet. But he felt connected to Elena and the Prometheus, linked by communication systems and shared purpose. Parker stood at his tactical station, calm and ready. Commander Harris manned the weapons console, his earlier anger at the Crithians replaced by grim determination. Sir, the Voidborn fleet is beginning its attack approach, Parker announced. They're not even trying to communicate. They're just coming straight at us. On the view screen, Chen could see them now with visual sensors. The Voidborn ships looked like they had been grown rather than built, all sharp angles and crystalline surfaces that seemed to absorb light. They moved with an eerie grace, turning and shifting in patterns that hurt to watch. All ships hold the line, Chen ordered. Do not fire until they're in optimal range. Make every shot count. The distance closed. 500,000 kilometers. 400,000. 300,000. The void-born ships were clearly visible now, their formations perfect and cold. Range in 60 seconds. Parker counted down. 50 seconds, 40. Chen gripped the arms of his command chair. Around him, the bridge crew waited with controlled fear. This was it. Everything came down to the next few hours. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. Parker's voice was steady. All weapons in range now, sir. Chen took a breath. All ships open fire. Space exploded with light. Railguns from human ships threw slugs of metal at relativistic speeds. Crithian energy beams, purple and deadly, lanced out toward the enemy. And from the Prometheus, golden beams of quantum energy reached across the void like fingers of God. The void-born shields caught most of the fire, but not all. Several ships exploded, torn apart by the concentrated assault. But the rest kept coming, and now they returned fire. Black beams of energy, cold and terrible, struck the Allied fleet. Ships vanished, simply ceasing to exist where the beams touched them. The shields that had seemed so strong moments ago failed against this unknown technology. We're losing ships, Harris shouted. The void-born weapons are cutting through our shields like they're not even there. Adapt the shield harmonics. Elena's voice came. The battle raged for hours, and space around Earth became a graveyard. Debris from destroyed ships formed clouds of metal and crystal. Bodies drifted in the void, human and Crithian, and the strange geometric fragments of void-born machines. Admiral Chen watched his fleet die ship by ship, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Sir, we've lost the Tokyo and the Berlin. The Crithian cruiser, Shadow of Victory, just went offline. Lieutenant Parker's voice was hoarse from shouting orders. We can't hold them much longer. Chen knew he was right. The Voidborn were too many and their weapons were too powerful. Every tactic the Allied fleet tried, the enemy adapted to within minutes. It was like fighting an opponent who could read your mind and predict your every move. Captain Vasquez, we need options, Chen said into the communication link. The defense is collapsing. Elena's face appeared on his screen. Behind her, the Prometheus bridge was filled with smoke and sparking consoles. I know, Admiral. We're being overwhelmed. The Voidborn are learning faster than I expected. Our weapons are becoming less effective with every minute. Then what do we do? Chen demanded. I'm not giving up Earth without exhausting every option. Elena was quiet for a moment, her face grim. There is one option, but it means the end of the Prometheus and everyone aboard. Chen felt ice in his stomach. Explain. The Prometheus's temporal core, the device that allowed us to travel through time, it's still active. We've been containing it, keeping it stable, but if we destabilize it deliberately, it will create a quantum cascade, a massive explosion that exists in multiple time frames simultaneously. Elena's voice was steady, but Chen could see the pain in her eyes. It will destroy everything in a 50,000-kilometer radius, including the majority of the Voidborn fleet. And the Prometheus, Chen said, and the Prometheus. Elena nodded. We knew this might be necessary. We've been preparing for it since we arrived. My crew understands. We came back to save Earth, Admiral. This is how we do it. Chen wanted to argue to find another way, but he could see the tactical display. The Voidborn were breaking through the defensive lines. In less than an hour, they would be in orbit over Earth, and then billions would die. The choice was terrible but clear. How much time do you need? Chen asked. We have to get deep into their formation, right to the center where their command ships are clustered. It'll take 20 minutes to reach optimal position. Elena smiled sadly. That's not much time to say goodbye to the universe. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Chen broadcast to the fleet. The Prometheus is going to make a final run at the enemy. I want every ship we have to cover their approach. Give them everything you've got. Make the Voidborn look at us, not them. The response was immediate. Human and Crithian ships surged forward, throwing themselves at the Voidborn with desperate fury. Chen knew he was ordering good people to die, but there was no choice. Not anymore. The Prometheus began its final journey. It accelerated toward the heart of the Voidborn formation, its golden weapons firing continuously. Around it, ships exploded and died, but the Prometheus kept going, protected by the sacrifice of its allies. On Earth, Maria Vasquez watched from her fighter as the huge ship drove deeper into the enemy fleet. Something about this felt wrong. Her squadron had been ordered to protect the evacuation of civilians from the coastal cities. But Maria couldn't shake the feeling that she should be up there, fighting alongside that mysterious ship. "Why are they going in alone?" her wingman asked over the radio. "That's suicide." "I don't know," Maria said. But deep down in a place she didn't understand, she thought maybe she did know. The captain of that ship, the woman who shared her name, had looked at her with such sadness and love, like she was saying goodbye to someone precious. Aboard the Prometheus, Elena stood on the bridge surrounded by her crew. These people had come with her from a dark future, knowing they might never go home. Now they were giving their lives to make sure this timeline had a chance. "Status report," Elena said calmly. "We're in position, Captain," her tactical officer reported. "The Voidborn command cluster is in optimal range. Temporal core destabilization can begin on your order." Elena looked around at her crew, these brave souls who had followed her across time itself. "I want to say something before we do this. You all volunteered for this mission knowing it was one way. You gave up everything, your families, your lives, your very existence in the timeline to save people you would never meet. That's not duty. That's not just courage. That's love, and I'm honored to have served with you." Her crew stood straighter. Some had tears on their faces. All of them were ready. "Begin destabilization," Elena ordered. Deep in the heart of the Prometheus, containment fields that had held reality-bending energy in check began to collapse. The temporal core started to pulse with increasing intensity. Time itself began to bend around the ship, creating waves of distortion that spread outward. The Voidborn noticed too late. Their ships tried to pull back, but the temporal distortion was growing too fast. They were caught, trapped by the very laws of physics they had thought they mastered. Elena opened a final communication channel to the Indomitable. "Admiral Chen, it's been an honor. Tell Earth to remember us. Tell them we came from tomorrow to save today." "We'll remember," Chen promised, his voice thick. "The entire galaxy will remember the Prometheus and her crew." Elena smiled. Then she opened another channel, a private one. "Lieutenant Maria Vasquez, this is Captain Elena Vasquez. I need you to listen carefully. Live your life, Maria. Live it fully and freely. Have adventures. Fall in love. Have children and tell them stories about the stars. And when you have a daughter, name her Elena, promise me." Maria's voice came back, confused and frightened. "I promise, Captain." "But why? What's happening?" "Something beautiful," Elena said softly. "Goodbye, grandmother. I love you." She closed the channel before Maria could respond. Around her, the Prometheus was shaking, its hull glowing with impossible light. The temporal core was reaching critical mass. 30 seconds, her science officer counted down. At 20 seconds. Elena thought about her world, the dark future she had come from. She thought about all the people who had died in that timeline, all the suffering and loss, and she thought about this Earth, this timeline where maybe things would be different. 10 seconds. She closed her eyes and saw her grandmother's young face, full of life and hope. 5 seconds. "For Earth," Elena whispered. "For humanity. For everyone who comes after us." The temporal core detonated. Light filled space, but it was light that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The explosion reached backward and forward through time, creating a cascade that touched every moment simultaneously. The Voidborn ships at the center of the formation simply ceased to exist, erased from multiple time frames at once. The ones farther out were torn apart by quantum shockwaves that ignored conventional shields and armor. In less than 3 seconds, 3/4 of the Voidborn fleet was destroyed. The remaining Voidborn ships, damaged and confused, tried to retreat. But the Allied fleet, inspired by the Prometheus's sacrifice, pressed the attack. Human and Crethian ships worked together with perfect coordination, hunting down the survivors and destroying them one by one. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as the last Voidborn ship exploded. The battle was over. Earth was saved, but the price had been terrible. "Count our losses," Chen said quietly. Parker worked his console, his face pale. 48 human ships lost. 23 Crethian vessels. And the Prometheus, he paused. Total casualties are estimated at 57,000. 57,000 lives. And 400 crew members from the future who had given up their entire existence. Chen felt the weight of those numbers crushing him. "Open a channel to all surviving ships," Chen ordered. When Parker nodded, Chen spoke. "This is Admiral Chen. The battle is over. The Voidborn are defeated. Earth is safe. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We won today because people from tomorrow came back to save us. The crew of the Prometheus gave their lives, their very existence, so that we could live. We must never forget their sacrifice, and we must be worthy of it. On Earth, celebrations erupted in the streets. Billions of people who had been certain they would die today found themselves alive and safe. They cheered and cried and held each other close. In her fighter, Maria Vasquez sat quietly, thinking about the woman who had shared her name. The captain who had known things she shouldn't know, who had looked at her with such love, who had told her to live a full life and name her daughter Elena. Maria didn't understand what had happened, but she felt in her heart that she had lost someone important, someone she had never really known but who had cared about her deeply. I promise, she whispered to the stars, I'll live well, and I'll tell my daughter about you. Years passed. The alliance between humanity and the Crithians grew stronger. Together they rebuilt what had been destroyed and created new wonders. They shared technology and culture, learning to see each other not as enemies but as partners in survival. Maria Vasquez became a legendary pilot, then an instructor, then eventually retired to raise a family. She married a kind engineer named Thomas, and they had 3 children. The youngest was a daughter with dark hair and her mother's brave spirit. Thank you for watching, and comment for next part.